Partnered by Times Influence.
Textiles have been the fabric of Indian society for centuries. The value of textiles in Indian society transcends economics, seeping into our philosophy and culture. Originating from a Latin word texere, which means to weave, the history of textiles is almost as old as that of the human civilization, and it has only enriched itself over the years.
I think that it's fascinating that our democracy breathed when the fabric of freedom was used by Mahatma Gandhi, and it unified an entire nation under one flag. The Prime Minister, understanding the potential that every Indian entrepreneur has, every Indian artisan has, every Indian weaver has, gave a clarion call for Make in India. And nothing better says Make in India than textiles in India.
Indian textiles have long been exported globally and the industry is thriving. Currently estimated at around $108 billion, it is expected to reach $223 billion by 2021. The industry is the second largest employer after agriculture, employing nearly 51 million people directly and 68 million people indirectly in 2015-16. Textile and apparel sector contributes 14% to industrial production, 4% to India's gross domestic product, and constitutes 15% of the country's export earnings.
वैल्यू एडिशन की दिशा पर हमने बल देने का प्रयास किया। मित्रों, एक अभी हम टेक्सटाइल पॉलिसी लाए हैं और मेरा टेक्सटाइल पॉलिसी का मेरा मतलब है कि मैं नहीं चाहता हूं कि मेरा कॉटन ग्रोवर अपना कॉटन बेचने के लिए दर दर भटकता रहे। और इसलिए मेरी एक 5 ईयर फॉर्मूला है, फार्म टू फाइबर, फाइबर टू फैब्रिक, फैब्रिक टू फैशन, fashion to foreign.
It is a complex industry with a long value chain. But the beauty about this textile sector in India is that you are blessed with the entire range of product lines. Many countries don't have the fiber, but they have the garment making. Many countries have the fiber, but they don't have the industry. India is among the very few countries which has the fiber, which has the wherewithal to convert it into yarns and fabrics and convert it further into garments and now into retail and sell it to the Indian market and overseas. So you are really in a way uniquely placed in the world amongst the supplying countries.
India is gearing up to showcase its skill in the textile sector while pushing Prime Minister Narendra Modi's vision of farm to foreign policy with an ambitious 3-day international event, Textiles India 2017. Organized from 30th June to 2nd July 2017 at Mahatma Mandir, Gandhinagar in Gujarat, Textiles India 2017 will be the first ever global business-to-business event in the country that will bring domestic producers closer to global buyers.
With the mega event also comes in the vision that the Prime Minister has set. He speaks about Make in India, he speaks about fiber to fashion, he speaks about New India. Ma'am, how do you really see this event bringing to fore all this vision that has been set by the Prime Minister?
The textile industry is flocking to this event for 2-3 reasons. Firstly, we have international buyers coming from the biggest buying houses to companies, not only those who are involved, let's say, in apparel, but also those who are involved in the handicraft, handcrafted goods segment, to people who are servicing the textile machinery segment. Because with the expansion of the textile industry, there is a need to infuse more and more technology, to have latest machinery available for our industry, and we are ensuring that even fashion houses and institutes across the world, in fact one of the biggest in New York, is flocking to India for the event.
The Ministry of Textile is going to organize this. I feel that this will give a new vision to the country and which is going to increase the employment potential and export of the country.
झारखंड एक ऐसा प्रदेश है जहाँ हर क्षेत्र में संभावना है और टेक्सटाइल के क्षेत्र में तो झारखंड में और काफ़ी संभावना है और इसलिए झारखंड सरकार ने तय किया कि 30 जून जो गुजरात में टेक्सटाइल इंडिया का कार्यक्रम है जिसे माननीय प्रधानमंत्री जी उद्घाटन कर रहे हैं तो उसमें झारखंड भी पार्टिसिपेट कर रहा है क्योंकि देश का 82% असर झारखंड में ही होता है।
The Indian textile industry is diverse. It has labor-intensive hand-spun and hand-woven textile sectors at one end of the spectrum and capital-intensive mills and manufacturing sectors at the other end. But what makes the Indian textile sector truly unique is its close linkage to the agriculture sector for raw materials, which is then woven and the spell of modernization for acceptance across the globe.
We normally saw that when it comes to the raw material production for the textile industry, which is, let's say, cotton or jute, now those are aspects that nobody in the textile ministry was engaging with the agriculture ministry for. So this time we've been quite lucky that our agriculture minister was extremely receptive. Let's work together to ensure that the benefits goes to the farmer so that the raw material produced, in fact, is of a higher standards as per the expectations, let's say in jute, of the industry, so that it gives the industry an opportunity to diversify. And when you have diversification possibilities, your exports rise.
The Indian textile industry has the capacity to produce a wide variety of products suitable for different market segments, both within and outside India. Shahid Junaid is a 7th generation Banarsi brocade weaver. Brocade weaving is cluster based and takes place at home for the roughly 12 lakh people associated with the handloom silk industry in Varanasi and its adjacent districts. An award-winning small-scale entrepreneur, Junaid is excited about participating in Textiles India 2017.
जैसा कि हमें बताया गया टेक्सटाइल इंडिया 2017 किया जा रहा है तो उसमें हमें इसमें अच्छी उम्मीदें दिख रही हैं कि आगे बिज़नेस भी अच्छा होगा और हम सिर्फ अपने देश में ही नहीं विदेशों तक अच्छी तरह से पहुंच पाएंगे, हमारी चीज़ें पहुंचेंगी और लोग जानेंगे कि बनारस में क्या बन रहा है और कैसे बन रहा है। और ये इवेंट अगर कामयाब होता है तो हम चाहेंगे कि इसको कम से कम हर 6 महीने पर और शहरों में भी लगाया जाए।
We ourselves have developed a lot of training roles and modules for training. So I think the biggest partnership to create this manpower for clothing and is the Ministry of Skill Development. We are partnering with them, we are making our presence felt, we are going there. And this partnership is not just limited to this Textile 2017. It has been a long-standing partnership and in future I think we would be training more than 11 lakh, 1.1 million next 3 years people associated with the textile sector, which is in huge demand.
The small-scale units or clusters produce some of the most beautiful handlooms, handicrafts and sericulture products and form a significant part of our ever-growing export basket. The government is also planning to introduce a mega package for this unorganized sector, which will focus on cluster development and skill enhancement for the weavers. The Ministry of Textiles has even signed MOUs with e-commerce players in order to provide a platform to artisans and weavers from across the country to sell their products directly to the consumer.
The startup entrepreneur, the weaver, the artisan entrepreneur, the craftsman entrepreneur to come on board and escape the middlemen, come on board. We find interesting new companies also coming up who are looking at sourcing directly from weavers and craftspersons. So suddenly it is like the best of Indian tradition and technique and also innovation is available at affordable rates to consumers across the country through the platforms of e-commerce, and that's been it's huge potential and opportunities for both.
The government has to provide an enabling environment. And when the government, let's say, wants to do any kind of a process or any kind of an engagement with the stakeholders, we ensure that we talk to every stakeholder. Let's say, let me give you an example, let's say of power loom. That's a big segment. Now, power loom industry came to us and said that they are meeting many challenges. They said, can we get support for solar energy? We ensured that we give 50% subsidy for solar energy. But let's say if you're an entrepreneur from the SC community, we want to develop entrepreneurs within marginalized communities. So we gave a subsidy of 75% to entrepreneurs who belong to the SC community. If you're from the tribal community and you want to become an entrepreneur, we give you 90% subsidy.
So we're going to empower and strengthen the weaver. We're going to train lots of women folk because we need to strengthen our roots first. We're going to empower them through the manufacturers, make them partners, make them stakeholders in the industry so that the next generation of weavers, whether literate or illiterate, male or female, keep on coming to this sector, and this sector, this craft continues to survive.
After the break, we get you the impact of GST on the textile sector and how Indian designer wear is making a mark across the globe. The textile and apparel industry is one of India's leading growth drivers. 24% of the world's spindles and 8% of the world's rotors are in India. It is also the world's second largest producer of cotton and silk, as well as the second largest textile manufacturer. Apart from this, India also has an advantage in terms of skilled manpower and a competitive cost of production, making it a preferred destination for investment.
Do you see the change happening over the past couple of years to what it is right now? And do you feel that that's something that could always have an upward moving graph?
Well, they say well begun is just half done. So one of the part of the journeys is the big Textiles India event. And we are hoping that this becomes once in a 2-year event for India to host, because the year round our industry, our artisans, our weavers and our apparel sector, they go across the world with their wares, telling people that this is what I have to sell as an Indian. At least now they can go around the world and say, come to India and we'll show you the best of the best that we have.
So we have all the advantages that an industry must have: homegrown cotton, skilled labor, you have investment in terms of weaving and traditional weaving, knowledge, plus modernization which has taken place. So amongst the fabric, if you come to the suppliers of the various elements, we are amongst the largest suppliers of yarn in the world. We command about 30% of world market share. Over a period of time, our own assessment is that as we develop and as the economy settles down and some of these other programs like GST come into place and are well accepted, we will be able to develop India as a hub of fabric manufacturing and also textile manufacturing at large.
While the government is focusing on curbing migration and generating employment in the unorganized sector, apparel manufacturers and exporters are also doing their bit by setting up world-class facilities. The growth in the apparel segment is also supported by the entry of global players in the Indian market and an aggressive expansion witnessed by multi-brand apparel stores over the past decade.
I think our contribution as a company and many of our colleagues in the trade has been that we have tried to bring India to the world. See, we've had access to European, American, Japanese and other markets for all these years. So I think one of the impact is that if India is known globally for its textiles and apparel, is the contribution of the garmenting trade particularly.
I think one great thing that the government has done in the textile is the garment or the apparel policy which they announced I think a few months back, where a lot of labor related initiatives were rationalized.
Because one of the things in the textile industry is that sometimes it's a bit, it fluctuates in terms of its demand-supply positions, and accordingly we need to balance our requirements. And labor is a fairly large component in the textile sector, so that's a great thing. We are looking forward to the announcement of the textile policy, which I know is forthcoming.
Branding India through the Make in India initiative has resulted in facilitating investment, fostering innovation and building a best-in-class manufacturing infrastructure. 100% FDI under the automated route effectively backs the Make in India program for the textile and garment industry.
The Make in India product, that label, today everybody wears it with great deal of pride and makes us all very proud that we've walked this journey all these years.
Textile sector seeks 5% taxes under GST across most value chains, a move that will only strengthen the industry and remove disparities that exist currently.
5% GST of the textile industry is something that all the experts in at least the textile industry have lauded. How do you see that impacting this sector, and if for a common man, what does that mean, and for the buyers and sellers?
It means better quality clothes at a lower cost for the consumer. But what it also means is that the more, we are one of the world's largest consuming markets. So once we enhance our quality of production, once we lower the prices and make it competitive with the rest of the world, our domestic manufacturers have a larger audience and a larger consumption base to service. So I think that for us it's a win-win. Not only are we in a capacity now to export some of the best apparel and some of the best materials around the world, but at the same time, while the world tries to sell their wares to India, what better complements the Prime Minister's Make in India vision than to buy in India, buy an Indian.
So you see this, the GST actually having a positive impact as far as the growth and development?
I think that fiscal discipline is something that we all owe to our country, and the GST seeks to bring that. But at the same time, for the textile industry, given that even the industry concerns about ensuring that there is a lower slab for job work on textiles, that was also heard by the Honourable Finance Minister. I think that's also a huge boon and a big thumbs up to him and the GST Council.
What has happened is that textile, if you look at the fabric, so far has not been under the tax regime. I mean, there was no excise duty on fabric. So when you have a whole large industry like textiles coming under under a tax regime, there is a bit of turbulence which is there, especially in the trade-related areas, because it's a very, very widespread trade community all over the place, which have functioned in a different methodology. But as a manufacturer, as a supplier to various sectors, I mean, we do see great opportunities in this becoming much more organized than what it is now. And obviously, when a sector becomes far more organized, then the growth, the predictability of growth becomes that much more easier. So,
the Make in India mantra is slowly and steadily penetrating through the complex supply chain of the textile industry, from fiber and spinning to retail. The Indian designer wear industry, according to a recent study by ASSOCHAM, is likely to cross the 11,000 crore mark by 2020. Driven by higher disposable incomes and growing fashion consciousness amongst urban India, designer wear is not only gaining popularity in the country but also in the Western markets.
The other evolution which has taken place is the introduction of direct fashion into the man and woman wear. Earlier, we used to copy the designs. Now we make and the world copies. This is the trend which has started off late.
Indian designers become the catalyst which takes the textiles that the craftspeople produce and they make it acceptable to a ready-to-wear audience. But I think more than only the designers is the fact that our craftspeople have got such enriched skills, which is actually making the world take note of India.
Indian textiles have always been important world over, and I think it's again finding a resurgence where design and textile construction is becoming really, really important. As the focus goes more and more on design intervention and craft, and we can blend it with the industrial production, I think something really, really special is going to come out in the future as well.
The future of the Indian textile industry looks promising, buoyed by both strong domestic consumption as well as an export demand. With an ambitious target of doubling textile exports in the next 10 years, Textiles India 2017 is just the first step to showcase the strength of our retail value chain. A landmark global trade event that will weave a spell of growth and development in the Indian textile and handicraft sector.
You are all welcome in this textile conference in Gandhinagar, and I am welcoming all of you, and I feel that this is going to be a game changer in the history of our country.
It is an excellent idea. It requires massive planning. It really places India as a hub of production.
I assume that Textile India 2017 is going to be a page turner for the textile industry in India.
This becomes the sort of a pivot or the starting point of a great revolution in the textile industry.
After the event, the message to the world will be very clear that Indian textile industry is very strong and vibrant, and it can be a good sourcing and investment destination for them.
It's a very exciting time. It may not necessarily have a direct impact immediately, but I think it will have a very long-term positive impact on the world.
We have the capacity to come under one roof and show the world the Indian textile and handicraft strength.
Partnered by Times Influence.